Hi everyone, today we're going to be going over how to write your informative speech outline. Okay, so when you click on, when you go to the informative speech folder, you will see these two things. You'll see the instructions, and then you will also see the template and the reference page. You'll also see a video there because after I record this video, I will be posting the instructional videos. So you'll also see those. But you'll see these. And so you'll click on both the template and the outline and reference page example. Okay, so when you open those, this is what comes up. Here is the template, and it has stuff written in. You will delete anything in parentheses like this, like that should all be deleted. But some things stay. So let me just reiterate this before I move forward. When you write your informative speech, it should remain in outline form, meaning you should not write this outline and then create an essay. It should remain in this format. So I'm giving you this template because I really want it to look just like this. Okay, and so we're going to go over this template and then we'll kind of look at this speech or this outline, this example, so you kind of know what I'm looking for. But okay, so it should remain in this format. So you put your name, the topic, and then you'll have the general purpose. For everyone for this speech, it will be to inform. The next section will be to inform the audience about blank. So you insert your topic there. Obviously, delete insert topic and put your topic name. And then delete this right here. But what I put this here because I wanted to remind you that I want a copy of your thesis statement here. This should be exactly the same thesis statement that you have right here in your introduction. Okay, so we'll delete that right there. Okay, so then you will write your introduction and your conclusion. At this point, you may have already done that. If you've already done the peer review forum, then you may have already done the intro and conclusion. If not, or if I've changed that assignment since making this video, this may be the first time you've written your intro and conclusion. So either way, this is what it should look like. If you've already done that peer review assignment, then you would just insert the information you wrote in the on the peer review intro and outline. You will just take that information and insert it here. Okay, so you'll write your intro. You'll hit your attention getter, which can be a quote. It could be a short clip if you wanted it to be. It could be a story, whatever you want to do for the attention getter. And then you'll tell us about the topic, relevance to audience, so make it relevant to us. And then you'll establish your own credibility, and then you'll write your thesis. So your thesis should only be 1 to 2 sentences clearly stating what you're going to tell us. So again, that should not be a long, lengthy paragraph in your thesis statement, just 1 to 2 sentences. Then you'll have your transition. And so all transitions should be very straightforward and simple. You do not have to make these complicated. If you have multiple sentences as a transition, it's probably too much. Transitions are supposed to be as simple as, all right, now let's talk about blank. Or to begin, let's start with blank. Or then later on, say after the first main point, you might say, now that you know about blank, let's discuss blank, right? So you're telling us where you've been and now where we're going. So that is how I want you to write transitions, very simple. And then in this main point 1 area, the main points, basically what you're going to do is just your overall point that you're trying to make for that section, right? So the overall point, what do you want us to know in that section? Write it there. And then in your next step point, okay, let me just clarify. You do not have to do this exactly the way that I'm saying it. Like as in, if you want to, well, I'll tell you in a second. Let me finish what I was saying. Okay, so main point summary, you're just telling us exactly what you want to say. Then subpoint 1, you might include it in text citation here. So you might say, according to so-and-so, and then you put the year of publication. Then you would tell it and then quote your source, whatever the information might be, right? And then in subpoint 2, there you can just kind of summarize what you're wanting us to know about this main point. You might connect that citation back to the main point. Maybe you share your own personal example, whatever you want to do. But this is kind of just that, okay, this idea is coming to a close and we're about to transition to something else. Okay, so what I was saying a second ago is you don't have to exactly use this format. Like if you decide that you want to include a in-text citation within the main point section right here, that's totally fine. right? This is just one way to do it that makes it kind of simple. But say you have multiple in-text citations and you might need one, like one in the main point summary here, and then also in subpoint 1, that's okay. You can do it that way. You might even have had some students who even have one in each of, like in their main point and both subpoints. Also all right. So, but this is just one way of doing it. Then again, your transition should be very simple, right? You can just say, you might, like in the example of if I was doing a speech on diabetes, I might say, okay, now that I've given you an overview of the disease, let's talk about symptoms. You could do it that way, or you might just simply say, next, let's discuss symptoms. Either way is fine. Okay, so what I say in this subpoint here is just reminding you that you must have 2 subpoints for each main point. Right, so that means you can't have a main point and then just 1 subpoint. You have to have at least 2. You can have more than that, but not less than. I will also say that for the length of this speech, having more than 3 subpoints is probably going to get too long. All right, so then also, and this might be even more confusing, but if you want to include, you need subpoints of a subpoint, you can do that as well. But you still have to have 2. So basically subpoints or subpoints of subpoints must always come in pairs. So what I mean by a subpoint of a subpoint would be, say I want to have another subpoint, I would tab in, right? And I would just say subpoint, I guess I would need 2 dashes. I'm going to leave it out. Subpoint 1, subpoint 2. Okay, so I mean, I have the subpoint of a subpoint. That is totally fine, but remember, you must always have 2. Okay, so again, the transition is simple. So you just might say, all right, now let's talk about treatments. That might be all you say. Or you might say, all right, now that you have a better understanding of the diseases in general, and you also know some of the symptoms to look for, here are some treatments that are also available. Right, so I kind of told you, here's what we've already discussed, here's where we're going. You could do it that way as well. All right, and then you write main point 3 the same way. And then this transition right here, this transition is optional. All right, so meaning that sometimes this awareness of conclusion can kind of work as a transition statement. Sometimes people need the extra transition, sometimes they don't. So if you don't need it, that's okay. Just make sure to delete it and not keep that transition title there. Delete this whole section and you'll just go straight from subpoint 2 straight into your awareness of conclusion. That's great. All right, so also once you've written your whole speech, and you also have one more part to it. You have a reference page. Right, it should be written just like this, references, not bold. But the main thing to note is that it should be on its own page. So I put this here, but I even say this on here, make sure that it's on its own. So I know most of you will probably just like go right here and enter down. That's okay, but the problem is if you ever edit your speech or add or take out, that messes with where the actual reference page title begins, right? So say you put references at the bottom or on its own page, but then you delete a lot of stuff. Well, then that's going to actually bring that reference page up maybe to the next page, right? So instead of doing that, a great thing to do is just click right in front of this R for references, go to Insert, and see this thing says Pages. Click that and see Page Break. Add a page break. And what that's going to do is that's going to put this on its own page. And it's always going to be on its own page. No matter how much information you add or take away from your speech, that'll always remain on its own page. So that's a great trick to remember. All right, so then just the basics of things to pay attention to. Note that this is in Times New Roman 12-point font. That's exactly how this should be written. So please keep it that way. Or if you're writing it your own, but like if you're just looking at the template and typing it all yourself, that's fine. Just please remember that it needs to be in Times New Roman 12-point font. Your reference page, I'll do a video concerning the reference page, so I won't go into that detail here, but that should also be Times New Roman 12-point font. Also, one last little thing that's kind of silly, but I just always want to mention it because a lot of students do it. Make sure that your headings are bold, but what you include, like the information you put into the speech, that is not bold, just like this. I put that all right here. I just want to make sure I reiterate that because people forget. Okay, so that is the template. So let's quickly just look at A+ paper, or A+, sorry, not a paper because we're not turning an essay, an A+ outline. So this is from a previous student, and she did a great job writing this. Shows she has her name, topic, general purpose to inform about polycystic ovary syndrome, and then she has her thesis, which again is the same exact thesis as right here. Now, what I love about her thesis is that she tells us why she's telling us the information. She tells us what she's going to tell us. And then she also tells us what she hopes that we take away. So I love that. So just read her thesis because I think it's awesome. Polycystic ovary syndrome is not a fully understood health issue. However, to help you better understand what it is, I will explain the symptoms, the possible causes of it, and the current treatments available for this issue in hopes of bringing more awareness to this syndrome. I love that she told you, okay, this is what I'm telling you, right? Like, it's not a fully understood issue, so this is why I need to talk about it. And then she also says, this is what I hope. Like, I hope that by telling you about this, you will better understand it. All right, so that is a great thesis. Now you can see her introduction. She put everything that she needs to. She grabs our attention. She then relates her attention getter to her topic. Here you notice she does put in a citation. So for relevance to audience, you do not have to put in a citation in your introduction. If you would like to, you're obviously more than welcome to. And then she establishes her credibility by saying she was diagnosed with this syndrome, and then her thesis statement. So then here's her transition, beautifully written. First, I will tell you about the symptoms of polycystic ovary syndrome. See, very simple, straightforward. But if you think about it as an audience member, it's helpful when a speaker is just very straightforward. This is what we're going. This is what we're doing. Because it helps you better just like keep track, right? So we don't want to be transitions too complicated. And then here's her main point 1. She writes all of her main points the same way in that format that I suggested, or that pattern that I suggested. So she kind of does the overall main point, what she wants you to know. Then she cites her source, right? So she puts in her citation here. She tells you exactly who she's citing, because she says their names. She says, she tells you names, and then she does something else I like. She makes sure to mention some little thing about them. So instead of just saying their names, because most people might say, okay, I don't know who those people are, right? It could be anybody. So she, instead of just saying the name, she added who published an article in the Public Library of Science. So that's showing you they're credible to listen to. And then she says what they said. And then she puts the date down here. So that's not technically wrong, but I would actually say that probably you should do that here, right? Right, so that would be better to put that there. But you put that, she puts the citation in subpoint 1, and then she, in subpoint 2, just kind of summarizes or like closes this main point by telling you a little bit about her personal experience. She said it's important to note that every person with PCOS will not always have all these symptoms. For example, you'll notice that and she went into her particular life experience. So I like that. I like that she told you what she wanted you to know about the symptoms. She cited a credible source, and then she kind of summarized everything. But she also told you a little bit about her life experience, and then she brought it all to a close. All right. So, and then she transitions and she says, now we'll share with you the causes of PCOS. So that is great. She could have also said, now that you understand the symptoms, or you know a little bit about the symptoms to look out for, here are some things here are some possible causes. So you see, she could have said, this is what I just talked about, and this is where I'm going. She does the exact same pattern. She tells you what she wants you to know about causes. She then cites, and see, she has this down here, but I would actually put this, according to Belver, I would actually cite, you wouldn't have to put the author name again, since she put Belver. So I'm going to change this according to Belver, and then I would say et al. Here, right? And then I would come up here and put 2018 because that is when it was published. Okay. And then I would delete that down here. Bam, and add that period. And just so you know, I will put the updated version of this example online for you. All right, so then we continue to go on, and she does, oh, and then she obviously summarizes there. So then in the transition here, she says, finally, I'll explain the treatments available for polycystic ovary syndrome. Again, she could have said, now that you better understand the symptoms and causes, let's talk about possible treatments. That could have been another way to do that. All right, so again, here she has this is basically what I want you to know about it. Here's my citation. Again, I'm going to move this and put that there, delete that, and put a period, and there you go. All right, so that is how I would cite this. And you could also, she also, just so you know, she put the name, the first initial here because she said she's citing people with the same last name, so you would want to say that. Or if you knew what their names were, you could say their full name. Let's see, but again, just a reminder, she also said who they are. So she cites people, and then she says who are all researchers from the Institute of, and goes on about it. So see how she just puts one little, just a tad bit of information about who wrote it so that you know that they're a credible person to listen to. You should do that with each of your citations. And then again, she just kind of summarizes in her subpoint too. She does not use the transition, so she deleted it, which is good. And then awareness of conclusion, she just kind of tells us know that she's landing the plane. She tells us the main points that she just covered. And then she ends by just telling us why she shared all this information. She just says, you know, like it's very difficult or frustrating for her to have to deal with it. But she hopes by sharing her story that people are more aware of this particular syndrome. So she's kind of doing this like, hey, this is why I'm telling you. I want a call to action. I want you to be more aware, right? So whatever your conclusion is, you just want to make sure that it is it is a strong ending where we know you are ending your speech. You don't want to end with just thank you, that's it, or that's all I'm going to talk about. You know, you need to have something, maybe a takeaway, a call to action, a quote, a question, a short clip, whatever you want to do. But you want to have a strong ending statement. And then we scroll down, and she has a wonderful reference page. So this is exactly how your reference page should look. Everything is great on that. So you want to make sure that you are following those instructions and that your reference page looks like this. Please, the one thing I will say is that this should not be bold. And so I do think I already changed that or corrected that. I just realized the reason why all these little issues are in here is because I was looking, or I accidentally downloaded the old copy that I was using before. The new copy that's online should have all of these corrections already. But anyways, so the reference page should not be bold, but other than that, it's great. It's all equally double spaced. It has a hanging indentation. It's Times New Roman 12-point font. It's great. All right, so that is everything you need to know for your informative speech outline. So good luck writing your rough draft and your final draft.